You're sitting there, maybe late at night, scrolling through videos like this, and in the back of your mind, there's this quiet pressure that won't leave you alone. What should I actually do with my life? Go to university? Start working? Try building something on my own? And the worst part is, every option feels like it could either work out or quietly waste years of your life. You imagine yourself in a lecture hall trying to stay focused. You also imagine yourself trying to build something, failing, starting again, wondering if you made a mistake, and you don't want to choose wrong. So if you've ever found yourself stuck between these paths, this video is for you. And if you've already gone through this decision, share your experience in the comments. Someone out there probably needs to read exactly what you went through, because this isn't really about university, and it's not really about business either. It's about how people make decisions that shape the next 10 years of their life, often without fully understanding what they're trading. You wake up early, sit in a lecture hall that smells faintly of coffee and recycled air, and take notes on something you suspect you'll never use. Around you, hundreds of people are doing the same thing. It feels productive. It feels responsible. It even feels like progress. But underneath that quiet routine is a question most people avoid asking. Progress toward what exactly? Because here's what's really happening. You're following a path that has already been approved by society. Parents understand it, teachers respect it, employers recognize it. It gives you something extremely valuable in your early years. A sense of certainty. You know where to go. You know what to do next. You know how success is measured. And psychologically, that matters more than people admit. Humans are not wired to handle uncertainty well. So when you enter university, your brain relaxes a little. It feels like you're moving forward, even if you don't fully know where you're going. But there's a quiet trade happening. You're exchanging time for optionality. 3, sometimes 5 years, where your main job is to prepare for real life instead of participating in it. Now, for some careers, this trade is absolutely necessary. If you want to become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, there is no shortcut. You don't want someone improvising your surgery because they watched a few tutorials online. But for many other paths, the connection between what you study and what you actually end up doing is far less direct. And that's where the question becomes uncomfortable. Are you progressing? Or are you just delaying the moment you have to figure things out? University promises something very specific, even if no one says it out loud. Study hard, get the degree, and life will take care of itself. It is a comforting narrative, structured, predictable, almost mathematical. But the world outside the classroom doesn't operate on syllabuses and deadlines. It operates on value, adaptability, and timing. 3 things that aren't always graded. And this is where people get surprised. Because the degree itself is not the outcome. It's just a signal. It tells the world you were disciplined enough to finish something. It tells employers you can follow structure. But it does not guarantee relevance. You can do everything right and still find yourself competing with thousands of people who did the exact same thing. Same degree, same expectations, same idea of what success should look like. And suddenly the safe path doesn't feel as secure. Not because university is bad, but because the world changed faster than the system. Skills become outdated, industries shift, and the job market doesn't reward effort, it rewards usefulness. That's a hard realization, because you can spend years doing what you were told was the right thing and still feel uncertain at the end. And that's usually the moment when people start looking at the other path. Now imagine the opposite path. No lectures, no fixed schedule, no one telling you what to do next. Just a laptop, an idea that may or may not work, and the uncomfortable silence of responsibility. Starting a business is often sold as freedom. In reality, it feels more like exposure. Every decision matters and every mistake is personal. No one is there to correct you. No one gives you grades. The market gives you feedback, and it's not polite. You put something out there, and nobody buys. You try again, and maybe one person responds. And in those moments, it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like doubt, because now it's not about passing a test. It's about creating value that someone is actually willing to pay for. And that is a completely different skill. But here's what most people don't notice. While the university path delays pressure, the business path accelerates it. You are forced to learn faster, adapt faster, understand people, money, and systems much earlier. It's uncomfortable, but it's real. And for certain personalities, that environment doesn't just challenge them, it wakes them up. There is a moment that happens to almost everyone who starts building something real. You realize that information behaves differently outside the classroom. Concepts that seem simple in theory become unpredictable in practice, and skills that seem minor suddenly become the difference between earning and struggling. This is where the gap between knowing and doing becomes impossible to ignore. You can read about marketing for months, but the first time you try to sell something, you realize you don't actually understand people as much as you thought. You can study finance, but managing money hits differently when it's yours on the line. This is not a criticism of theory. Theory is useful. It gives you frameworks, but without application, it fades quickly. The brain learns differently when there is risk involved. When something matters, your attention sharpens, your memory improves, your decisions become more intentional. That's why practical experience often compresses years of learning into months. Not because it's better in every case, but because it's immediate. You don't just understand, you feel the consequences, and that changes you. The mistake people make is comparing the best case scenario of one path to the average outcome of the other. The millionaire entrepreneur versus the unemployed graduate. It is a comparison designed to mislead. The real comparison is much quieter. It is the average graduate versus the average person trying to build something from scratch. And the truth is, both struggle. The average graduate often ends up in a job that doesn't fully match what they studied. Stable, but not always fulfilling. The average person building a business often faces inconsistency. Some months are good, others are not. So the real question isn't which path is better. It's which type of struggle you are more willing to handle. Structured pressure or uncertain pressure. Delayed responsibility or immediate responsibility. Because both paths require effort. Both paths require discipline, but they reward different behaviors. And the people who succeed are not the ones who picked the perfect path. They are the ones who adapted to the path they chose. There is another layer to this conversation that most people are only beginning to notice. The world of work is changing faster than our education systems can adapt. Artificial intelligence is quietly replacing tasks that once required years of training. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily and permanently. And this changes the equation because the value is shifting away from what you know toward what you can do. For a long time, the system rewarded information. Memorize, repeat, specialize. But now information is everywhere. And increasingly, it's automated, which means something uncomfortable starts to happen. The advantage of simply having a degree begins to shrink, not disappear overnight, but lose its edge. And at the same time, something else rises. Skills that are practical, adaptable, difficult to automate in unpredictable environments. Things like plumbing, electrical work, construction, hands-on problem solving. The kind of work people used to overlook quietly becomes more valuable. At some point in your life, you probably heard the same sentence most of us did. Study hard so you can become something important. But what important means is already changing. And the people who do well in the future won't just be the ones who studied the longest, but the ones who learned how to stay useful. At the end of all this, you have to choose what feels right for you. This is not a rule. It's not a formula. It's just a perspective, my perspective of how I see the world. And more importantly, how I've seen people shape their lives, sometimes consciously, sometimes by accident. So when you think about this decision, don't just think about what seems logical right now. Think about the version of yourself you want to become. And then ask yourself, what kind of environment will force that version of you to grow? Because more important than knowing what to do is not losing yourself in the process of doing it. And also remember this, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to shift direction. You're not being inconsistent. You're not being a hypocrite. You're adapting, you're learning, you're becoming. And the people who build something meaningful with their lives are usually the ones who allow themselves to evolve. If this video helped you see things a little differently, subscribe, and like I said earlier, share your journey in the comments. You never really know who's reading and who needs to hear exactly what you went through, because sometimes we get so deep inside our own thoughts that we start believing what we're feeling is unique, that no one else understands it. But the truth is, you're not alone in this, not even close.